Hey there, it's Tia Torres, and thanks for joining me in another Tia Talk podcast episode. So today's discussion was influenced actually by me doing our taxes, working on our taxes for the nonprofit and just looking at how much money it costs to run our organization. And of course, as the years have gone on, what's after quadrupled, quintupled, sextupled? I don't even know, but it has. I think somebody not familiar with what it costs to actually, take on, a project such as ours or any animal shelter or large animal rescue would be shocked. When we were in California, I think the average yearly costs were, I want to say $300 and something thousand a year to run Villalobos Rescue Center back then. And then of course, we moved to Louisiana, and we were on ground zero here, and it's just gone up considerably. For a while, we were at a steady $4 to $5 million a year, and I know your mouth just dropped, right? Your jaw hit the floor, but it gets worse because after COVID was over and done, and people started dumping and returning animals that they had rescued during the pandemic, every animal shelter in the world, probably, I'm going to say in the world, was overwhelmed. I think I saw at one point the Fort Worth, Texas animal shelter had 1,100 dogs, and there was a video of the dogs stacked in crates all up and down all their hallways. We at one point were pretty close to that. I'm not gonna lie. But here's the thing. One might say, well, just stop taking them in. But then when we don't, we get accused of letting a dog, turning a dog away and sending it off to its death sentence. We are a legit no-kill. We do not euthanize dogs or cats for lack of space. So, we walk the walk and talk the talk, but that also costs a lot of money. So when I saw the amount of money that we had to spend these last couple of years to acquire more space for these animals, I thought, oh my gosh, Tia, what are you doing? But what were we to do? I mean, after COVID, it was hell. It was probably the worst time of my life in the animal rescue, lifestyle that I've chosen. And I think anybody who has been around as long as I have doing animal rescue would echo my feelings. It was they just kept coming and coming, and we were crating them and we were putting them in our employees' houses, and it was just horrific. So, we had some big donations come in, thank the gods above, and we were able to buy more property and to house these dogs and cats. So I then had to sit back and go, wait a minute, am I spending too much money, or is this normal? So I did a little dive into the world of animal shelters and decided to see what it cost, not so much to run them, but what it costs to build them. Because our animal sheltering system is a little bit different than most. Sure, we had our location in New Orleans where it was like a traditional animal shelter, a big building with rows and rows and rows of cages. But we saw that it really affected the dogs' temperaments, and they got kennel stress, much like a person who gets thrown in prison. They can lose their minds, and which is actually going to be another episode for me to talk about that, the correlation. But we saw that we had better luck with the dogs when we housed them in the non-traditional sense, which is how we do it out here in Assumption Parish, which is more of a country, rural type of environment. Out here, when I got these donations in, I would buy a small, not a small, but it's like an inexpensive fixer-upper house. And then I would assign that house to an employee, and the dogs lived in the house. They were crated, but they were outside all day, in their little exercise areas, and then brought in to be crated inside the house with TV going, music, air conditioning, heat, as close as we could get to giving them a home environment. Not only did I see that it was better for the dog, but it was actually cheaper as far as money goes. So I did a little deep dive, and I picked a couple of animal shelters that I'm familiar with. The closest, of course, being the LASPCA in New Orleans. Okay. And by the way, guys, this is not a dig on any of these shelters at all. I'm just stating facts, but I'm not doing this to dig at them. So for what I found with the LASPCA, it looks to be about right after Katrina. So this was like 2007. I'm reading an article. So they were trying to build a new animal shelter because the one that they had got wiped out during Katrina. And in this article, it talks about they're raising the money to build a new shelter that is going to cost $17 million. Okay. Now, the shelter has been built, so it's done. I don't know if that's exactly what it cost. Most of these projects go over budget. So, but again, no judgment here because it's a beautiful facility. But if my memory serves me correctly, I don't think it houses a whole lot of dogs. And I may be wrong, but I remember seeing a picture on Facebook where they talked about we're closed for intake. We don't have any more room, something to that effect. And there was like a chalkboard or a whiteboard, and they had put currently at 120 something dogs. And I'm like, that's all you can house there? So I'm going to be generous and say 200. Let's say that building can house 200 dogs, which again, that's a very comfortable amount in my opinion, because we have way more than that. Now, again, this is not a dig on the shelter, but and it's got beautiful like exercise yards and meet and greet rooms. And it's just, a dream come true for someone like us. But to me, in my opinion, it was not cost effective because you cannot house that many dogs. Even at 200 dogs, it's not that many. Especially for someone like us, where we don't euthanize for space. The LASPCA does. And a lot of shelters do. Again, no judgment here. I get it. But the reason we have so many is because we don't euthanize for lack of space. So then I remembered another animal shelter that I went to in Nebraska. Oh my God. It was just beautiful. I've never seen anything like it. I believe they call it the Nebraska Humane Society. And I got invited there, and it was just gorgeous. It was like walking into like this, I can't even describe it to you. You walk into the lobby, and it's like this, almost like a tropical paradise. It was just like, just gorgeous. And they just do all kinds of training there, behavior modification. It just, oh my God. But that being said, I remember asking the shelter director how much it cost to build something like this. And I don't remember her answer on that, but she did say to me, "Oh, we recently had a renovation." I said, "Oh, okay, well, it's beautiful." She says, "Yeah, the renovation was $14 million. I'm like, Wait, say what? That's just for the renovation? Whoa, I mean, yeah. So I'm going to guess that including the original price to build it, we're talking probably like $20-25 million so far into this facility. Again, man, was it gorgeous. And I believe they said they housed, oh my gosh, please don't quote me, I might be wrong, but I remember being like around 300 dogs or so, I think. And then, of course, cats. So, and by the way, the renovation was after the whole COVID thing. See, they too felt the effect and had to expand and do all these things. I'm reading the article here. It said they added 12,000 square feet of more housing. So there you go. I went to a website, shelterplanners.com. I want to give them the credit for that. And it talks about the costs to build an animal shelter. And I'm going somewhere with this whole story, okay? And of course, when you're building an animal shelter, there are things that you have to take into consideration. The size that you want it to be, the physical size, where you're building it at, what type of materials. You're going to go with, brick, or you're going to go with a metal building or wood. And then, of course, there's the type of animals and how many animals you want to put in there. So this was just put out in 2023. So this is pretty recent. And this is pretty accurate. Rough estimate to build a small scale shelter aimed at housing only about a dozen animals. You're talking $600,000 to $825,000, almost $1 million to build like a typical animal shelter that you go into that has like the drainage system, the caging, all of that for 12 dogs. And they're correct, because I went to a prison, years ago, and they had built a shelter on the prison grounds, and they had actually used some inmate labor. And they told me that it cost them about $500,000 to build it, and it only housed 15 dogs. Okay. They said when you get into like the larger shelters, we're talking, $5 million or more. So that being said, this is like the reality check for everybody. When we got these big donations last year or year before, again, I opted to buy property, house with property. And what we did is, like I said, we used mobile homes or the house itself, and we utilized that as our shelter. Who dares call me? Who dares call me? Oh, that's my daughter-in-law. I'll call her back. But anyways, because of the amount of dogs we got in, there was no way that we could use a traditional, beautiful animal shelter. We would have had to be triple stacking crates or euthanizing as dogs come in because of the way we do our work here. Meaning this: when we take dogs in, we keep them until they are heartworm treated, because 99% of our dogs come to us heartworm positive. So we keep them throughout their entire process in case there are complications. We don't want to put that on the adopter. So when a dog comes into our doors, we're looking at 3 to 4 months. They're with us. They're not going anywhere. So we needed space. And that is why a traditional shelter wouldn't have worked for us. Plus, again, we see a completely different behavior pattern with dogs that are kenneled this way and sheltered this way, as opposed to putting in the traditional big animal shelters. So, why am I telling you all this? Don't judge any shelter, any rescue for the amount of money that they spend to take care of their animals, including us. Because even I was shocked when I was doing our taxes. I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, oh, wait, you had to buy this property. You had to buy this property. Oh, this many dogs came in. Oh, this many dogs came in. Like we've done rescues where we've had to take 50 dogs at one time. That's an entire house. That's an entire shelter population right there. So it costs a lot of money, especially in today's economy, to run a shelter or an animal rescue. Okay, well, I'm getting off my soapbox. I hope that sheds some light and allows you to show us some grace, any shelter, any rescue, in the work that we do. We don't drive around in Ferraris. I don't know that I know of any animal rescue people driving around a Rolls Royce. I'm sure there might be somebody out there, but no one that I know. So be kind and know that your donations go to the animals and not to us. And when you don't like something that I say or someone else says, you're only punishing the animals by, taking away your donation or not wanting to help. It's for them. It's not for us. And I mean us as in humans. Okay, not me personally. Whew. Well, that's something I got off my chest. All right. Well, you know what? Now on to the next one. And my mission is to rescue. And my hope is truly that one day I won't have to.